Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. I am your host, the Mighty Bjorn. Today I have for you another Armored Warfare replay. This is PvE Hardcore Operation Cerberus. I have Grim Mike in the Terminator 2, Beer Gut Bill with the PLZ-05, and myself in the most modern American main battle tank, the M1A2C. We'll take a quick look over the vehicle here, and I'll let the lady jaw jack a bit at the beginning during the mission introduction before I actually really dive into the vehicle here. I really don't have a ton to cover, but there's a couple things I do want to talk about and some things I want to highlight about the M1A2C. So we'll get underway here in a little bit. And as you can see, this actually has the APS upgrade on it, which is those round, sort of oval-shaped circles on the turret. And then there's those patches there in the back as well on the top of the turret.
Destroy the shipment. Proceed with caution.
Alright, so let's dive on in here. I'll give you a little background on the M1A2C, and then I will discuss what I want to discuss about the vehicle itself. The M1 Abrams entered service with America in 1980. I've obviously covered some of this before with the M1 video. Of course, time went on and the M1 Abrams would need upgraded. The M1A1 would see the M61A1 105mm rifle gun replaced with the M256 120mm smoothbore gun, as well as improvements to the optics, ballistics, computer, stabilization, and so on. The next upgrade program, or at least baseline upgrade program, was the M1A2. It would enter service in 1992, and this would be the first model to feature depleted uranium armor and an independent thermal sight for the tank commander. Now into the most current version of the M1A2, which is the M1A2C, formerly known as the M1A2 SEP V3. The M1A2C would feature thicker armor on the frontal arc. The tank would also boast additional armor on the sides of the hull and the sides of the turret. Sorry, I'm having some issues here with my voice. The additional armor covers the sides of the hull and the turret. This is mostly to protect the vehicle from ambush, mostly from ATGMs and for urban combat situations. Another thing that would be added would be a remote gun system for the M2 machine gun for the tank commander. It would also boast more electrical power and better diagnostic systems and a data link system for the fire control system. That's a whole lot of systems being said at once. The M1A2C also features a trophy active protection system, which you do see here in game. All these upgrades keeps the M1 Abrams one of the top main battle tanks in the world, if not the top main battle tank in the world. It is still one of the top tanks in the world. Proof that America does it better. Now I'm going to cover a couple things off notes.
Identify target.
One thing that can be said about the M1A2C is when the M1A2C actually officially entered service in the as the M1A2C, no one had really pointed out the fact, including, I believe his name is Matthias. He has a YouTube channel. He covers a lot of modern main battle tanks. He did not even cover the fact that the vehicle originally was the M1A2 SEP 3V and made it seem like that the M1A2C was a brand new tank, which is actually not the case. It's actually been around for a few years now. Other thing that to point out, and Maddie's is not the only one in this, many people seem to have the misnomenclature that this is going to be the last mass upgrade official M1 Abrams upgrade program there's going to be, and that actually is strictly not the case. Since this vehicle has entered service, if some information has trickled out about an M1A2D, which has some improvements to the thermal optics and some other areas of the vehicle. That being said, we still have not gotten the M1A3, which they are still discussing and planning, and apparently has been in prototype stages since 2009. That being said, when I was in the service in 2003, we were talking about the M1A3 then. So it's the M1A3 is going to come to fruition at some point. It has to. What's holding the M1A3 up, last I know of, is actually what gun are they going to put on the tank. Besides the fact that there's a lot of new generation technology coming out and improvements on old technology, such as stabilization systems and optics as well. That being said, currently that I'm aware of, over the years since I've been in the service, there's actually been 3 main guns under test. One is actually the German Rheinmetall L55 120mm smoothbore main gun, which I would think is the more highly likely candidate, considering the increase in accuracy, penetration, and other performance factors that the new L55 gun has over the old L44. Understand that the M256 is actually an American version of the L44. It would also keep us with the same 120mm ammo that we are currently using, so there's no change in ammo. Now, another gun we had run trials on and had kind of shot that down when the Germans shot it down was Rheinmetall, also had a 140mm gun, and that gun has kind of gone to the wayside. Basically, it came down to the performance versus weight ratio just really didn't favor the 140mm main gun all that well. Although the XM1A3 can mount the 140mm main gun in armored warfare. Next, we're also currently, and this is one I've just become aware of, I'd say a little over a year ago, that we are doing trials on the Rheinmetall 130mm smoothbore main gun, which is also in game. However, it is in game on the Leopard 2AX, and from what information I have, it's showing favorable results, but still not sure if it justifies the replacement of a 120mm gun at this time. That's just kind of an up in air thing. But in either case, there was a lot of misconception that the M1A2C would actually be the last Abrams that America would produce, and that is strictly not the case. As I pointed out, the M1A2D, and I'm sure at one point or another we will be seeing an M1A3. These have not replaced all vehicles, all M1 Abrams tanks in service. However, by this point, all regular M1 Abrams tanks that would have entered service in the early 1980s have been replaced by both M1A1s and the M1A2. And by this point, all the M1A1s in service are now M1A1D, which pretty much puts the M1 Abrams up to the standards of the M1A2. Alright, so let's call the game here a little bit. And as you can see, I kind of went with a bonehead move here to get a mass spotting on the enemy force. I kind of miscalculated on what my team was going to do here. I was expecting the Griffin to do a bit more sniping than he did. He ended up getting himself bullet hosed. And Grim there is not looking all too good right now with the Terminator 2, as it looks like he might have an enemy behind him. I am going to try and stay hauled down behind this rock the best I can. And pretty much just pick an enemy and try and focus on him, while artillery also lands shells as well. The M1A2 is actually not a bad vehicle, as long as you can keep it hauled down. It does have excellent gun depression, and I am trying to use the gun depression to my advantage. But in the game here, we have this at tier 9, which is, as I said, the most current production model of the M1 Abrams. It still features the turbine engine. However, there is actually an upgrade in the turbine engine. I think actually it's the transmission has a slight upgrade to it to make it a little bit more beefy for the engine. So I'm going to use my kit here. I took a hell of a beat trying to get into this position. As you can see, it's a pretty bad scenario. Yeah, right now it's kind of like a 4 against 1 here. This T-14-152 is getting a little antsy, so I put a shot into him. Unfortunately, I did not track him, which is what I was trying to do. Can't seem to line up a penetrating shot, so I actually fired off my heat round that was loaded. That is actually SOP from the service. You just fire what's in the gun instead of unloading a round and loading a new one. I tried to put in a Sabo round in the turret ring there, but it did not work out. I'm going to pop smoke and I'm going to back off. Of course, unfortunately, because of how the train's here, that was a poor calculation. I did actually remain spotted, even though you don't see it on the screen. So there we go. There's the trophy APS to save my life. Trying to get my armor in the best position I can. Put a shot into the PLO-1 lieutenant. And as you can see, now I'm also dealing with a Merkava. And I bollocks that shot. Okay, there's a shot into the Merkava Mark III.
Identify target.
Now at this point, it is down to myself and Bill. There we go, another shot into the Merkava. And the Merkava is another good battle tank, that main battle tank that hails from Israel. It is their indigenous tank. And when it comes to the two tanks, yeah, the Merkava is a tough nut to crack. It's definitely on par with the Abrams, if not better in some ways in game. There we go, put one in the engine deck of the T-14. Now I have his attention again, except for the Abrams and the T-14 seem to be running off towards the railroad tracks. That's giving me a moment here to get rid of this Merkava. That way I don't have to expose my side to anybody. And unfortunately that shot did not penetrate and pop the smoke. And unfortunately I'm still spotted as this M1A2C lieutenant actually backs up and can see me. Alright, so I gotta make a quick decision here. And oh, that M1A2C lieutenant was actually a miss. Another one in the engine deck of the M1A2C. And we're just going to rock the hill here a little bit. Fortunately, threw that shot and did not pen. Aim for the driver hatch. And unfortunately started to back up, but I actually did get the penetrating hit. Now, Beer Gut Bill had actually dealt with the T-14. So now I'm going to close in on this M1A2 as fast as I can. I shot, but the shot did not pen, but I had rammed him. Prepare my track,
Guns up. No man. Guns
Track
hit.
them. We're going to close in
Strike destroyed.
and get the kill shot.
Great work.
And that is the final shot of the match. So very nitty gritty there with some aggressive gameplay. But we won the match, and I would do 28,391 damage, spot 16 enemy vehicles, and destroy 8, grabbing myself a target and a blue star. And then so overall, I would actually be #1 in damage as well as #1 in spotting damage. Unfortunately, Grim Mike was taken out early. And Beer Gut Bill actually did quite good with his SPG, doing almost as much damage as I did. So as you can see, it really turned into a nitty-gritty match. And I definitely we would not have won that if it was just down to my M1A2C, because unfortunately it just does not have the DPM of some other vehicles in the game. But anyway, folks, that's a video on the M1A2C and just some talk about the M1A2 in general. Hopefully you all enjoyed the video. Thank you very much for watching, and hopefully I will see you all again for the next Armored Warfare video.